over the last few weeks, you've made a bunch of trips to the Delhi airport to understand and address the congestion issues at the airport. So what's the blueprint? Is it working? Because you've had some time to implement it. And not just at Delhi, but all large Indian airports that are facing congestion issues. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're getting daily reports from Delhi, 6 a.m., 6 p.m. to figure out what's going on?
Absolutely. But let me just take a step back and explain the mechanics leading up to the situation that we faced and the raison d'etre for the easing off that we are now experiencing. So the civil aviation sector has been, the sector was hit the hardest during COVID. And you and I both are aware and cognizant of that, even though we may or may not be aviation buffs or deeply involved in the sector as we are. And the reason for that really was all our planes were on the ground. You had assets that were sitting on the ground as opposed to birds flying in the air. Payments still had to be made, fixed and variable costs still had to be met. And from a situation of dire positioning in the civil aviation sector, we've had a V-shaped recovery where from nil passengers per day, we are now breaking new highs. Pre-COVID, we had a high of roughly 4,15,000 passengers per day. We've breached that successively for 7 to 10 days, and the high has been 4.28 lakhs. And therefore, there has been a huge urge for people to fly, and that's a great thing for the sector. At the same time, we have airlines that are desirous of ensuring that travel is seamless and the process is efficient as possibly can be, because they have assets also that they need to be able to sweat so as to make sure that they meet their cost structure. Now, in between these two centers of demand, which is passengers that want to travel and planes that want to ferry them, you have an institution called an airport. That airport has to make sure that the demand that's coming through meets the supply. And to be very, very candid with you, I do not think that anyone had put in place a thinking that we would be reaching new highs this season. Now, what that led to was a tremendous amount of clogging. And that clogging, I held my first meeting on the 7th of December, followed it up with a visit to Delhi on the 12th. And that was, Delhi was not only it was not a fact-finding visit. It was a visit to make sure that the decisions that I had taken on the 7th of December meeting
were being implemented,
had been executed or not. Not were being, but had been executed or not. So during this whole process, I looked at it from an operations perspective, and we looked at where are the bottlenecks coming on the critical path. And we identified 4 or 5 points that we need to address. The first, of course, was the entrance gates. Delhi Airport had 8 entrance gates, and 2 entrance gates were being used for either the crew or are specially abled. We expanded that to 10 entrance gates and added 2 more. And that was done when I went on the 12th of February, which eased off the choke point with regard to the entrance gates.
Sure.
Along with that, I mandated that above each entrance gate, we must have a TV screen that very clearly displays the waiting line period for each gate, so that if you or I are a traveler and we reach gate number 2 because our car stopped at gate number 2 and we took off our luggage and we see there's a 20-minute wait line, but on gate number 9, it's only 2 minutes, we will take our trolley and go to gate number 9.
Makes sense.
Along with that, so those were up, those TV screens were up, which is the first, as you probably have noticed. Along with that, I said we must have usherers at every gate, so that the usherers can assist customers and travelers to go to the gate that does not have that much of a choke point. Those usherers, through walkie-talkie, must be given the information through a central command and control center, which monitors a video feed of all gates. All of those measures were in place when I reached on the 12th. The next step that I said is that when you go to the Delhi airport, there's a Naka, which is about 1.5 kilometers before the airport, where our cars go through a security check. I said above that Naka, put a TV screen as well, so that you and I as travelers will know which gate to go to at that Naka point. All the gate wait times should be put up on social media by every airline, and the airport. That is in place today. The second choke point is our security check. And I realized when I did this review on the 7th that we had 11 plus 2 security check lines at Delhi airport. That clearly was not enough to meet this crowd of 4.28 lakhs countrywide and 1.5 lakhs from a Delhi airport perspective, which was a new high. So I put in place a program where by the 12th we had increased it to 16 lines.
Okay.
Today, not today, but on the 20th, we've increased it to 20 lines. And by the 28th of this month, we will take that to 23 lines.
Fine.
And that resolves the choking that you and I both saw on TV and on the media.
Or in real life.
And or in real life, with regard to the long lines at security. All the CISF personnel are there to man those gates, and which is why today when we go to the airport, those lines are no longer existent as they were a week ago. The last point I want to make is with regard to our check-in counters. There were one or two airlines, and I don't want to name them, that were not having enough people to service customers at the check-in counters for the peak hour traffic, which is 0500 to 0900. We've mandated that, and now airlines have that in position. The final point I want to make, which is very important, as I mentioned to you, is that on the supply side also you need to be able to position as many arrivals and departures as this process can service. And we had an imbalance there. So what we've also done is in peak hours, which is 0500 to 0900, reduce the number of takeoffs and landings so as to ensure that there's no clogging in this process. So we've looked at reducing takeoffs and landings on one hand in peak hours only, and increasing capacity of throughput through the airport on the other hand, thereby equalizing that imbalance that we had experienced when we went to the airport 2 weeks ago.